From the Swedish Genealogy Guide, I'm Jeff Morris, and this is the second of a three-part series on reading Gothic handwriting in the older records. The focus of this lesson is going to be on spelling and phonetics, which is important because before 1906 there was no standard spelling, and people would just write the way things sounded. Let's get the biggest thing with Swedish research regarding spelling is to know that before 1906 there was no standard. At that time they created a whole bunch of rules. Let's look at some of those. So before 1906 you had a lot of letter combinations. We see this F, FV, FW, HV, and HW. They all had the sound V, like V, and so they just replaced them with V. Now that does not mean that they replaced all Fs with the letter V. I'll show you some of those examples in the third lesson. Another one they did was that they got rid of the TH and the DT, and in some cases the TT, and replaced it with a T or D. They also replaced the CH and the CK and Q, and in some cases even G or GG and C with the letter K. In some cases you'll see that the letter E has been replaced with the letter A, and the letters C, Z, and X, and even some SS's were replaced by a single letter S. And then also you'll see that some letters had, or some words had a second letter which was a lowercase I, which they replaced with a J. Here's a few examples of how it changed spelling. So we see the word love, which became love with a V. And then we have varöver. Now they just dropped the H, they also dropped the W, and instead of an FV combination, now it's just a V, and the word is still varöver. We have the word vad, which becomes vad, omvänt, to become omvänd. So in that case they dropped the W and they also dropped the DT and just put a D on the end. And then we have the word angiva, and the FV or the FW combination was replaced with a single V. And then another word that we see is the word Älvsborg, and Älvsborg spelled with an E and Älvsborg spelled with an Ä. Another thing you'll see with this spelling is that sometimes you'll see there is a horizontal line over a letter, and that means that in actuality it's actually representing a double letter. So Johannes with the horizontal line over it would actually be spelled out with a double N, E-S. And of course in the records you're going to run across a lot of abbreviations. There's a really good list in the Family Search Wiki for abbreviations in Swedish records for genealogy. Another thing we need to understand is some phonetics. You don't have to learn all of them, but it will help because when there was no standard spelling, people would just write the way it sounded. Here's a few examples. So the letter W always sounds like va. It never sounds like wa. The letter Z always sounds like S. The CH sounds like K. They never had the sound cha, like chair. The letter J sounds like ya in yes. And then there's a few letters that I call sound relatives. And I'll just sound these out so you can see how similar they are to each other. So we have ä, and then ä, and o, and å, and u, and ö. Now these letters that are close to each other in sound are oftentimes interchangeable in the handwritten records, just based on the dialect, based on how they pronounced the words. Another thing you need to be aware of is that there are hard vowels in Swedish and soft vowels in Swedish. The hard vowels are A, O, U, and Å, and the soft ones are E, I, Y, ä, and ö. Now, the consonant, which is to the left of the vowel, is pronounced depending on whether it is a hard or soft vowel. So let me just go through these examples really quickly so you can see how this works. So we have G. The word is gourd. With a soft, it becomes Göteborg. We have K, which is kaffe. With a hard vowel, becomes Kerstin. With a soft vowel. We have Gustav, and then we have Göran, which could be spelled in the older records with a G or J. We have the word kaka, and then we have kyrka. And then finally, Katrina and December. Now the C in December is pronounced a lot like an S. Now the letter J can be a little tricky because in the older records you'll see J represented by J, DJ, GJ, HJ, LJ, and sometimes even G if it's in front of a soft vowel. So I'll just go through some examples here. So we have the word jag, jägare, djup, djur, genom, gift, gjorde, gynna, gäst, göra, jon, jul, ljud, and use. And they all have that ya sound. You also have that lowercase I after the consonant there at the beginning in the old spelling. So a lot of times you'll see jur, jutare, jon, and use form. And they're using a lowercase I instead of a J. As you're looking at a word in a record, one of the things you really need to do is also look for the root word. So because of the way the Swedish language is organized, they take the root word and then they do different endings to convey different meanings. So here we have the word äpple, which means apple. Ett äpple for an apple. Äpplet, meaning the apple. Äpplen, which is plural for apples. And then äpplena. The root word all along is the word äpple. Here's another example. So we have the word son, which means son. And we have en son, a son. Sonen, the son. Söner, sons. And sönerna, the sons. The root word is son all along. But as you're looking up these words in a dictionary, if you're not aware that these various forms are all tied to a root word, you might get confused as you're trying to find it in a dictionary. So looking for root words in dictionaries will help you a lot. Okay, we've talked about the importance of non-standard spelling before 1906. A great resource online is the Swedish Historical Dictionary Database, or SHDD, to help you look up words with the older spelling. To summarize it, it's free at the Swedish Genealogy Guide homepage. It works either on a PC or a mobile device. It has over 41,000 Swedish words with their English translation, and all words are spelled with their original spelling from 1814. We also added 31 categories to focus your search, which act a lot like a word list. I'm going to show you just a few examples of how this works. So here we have in the record the word P-L-I-K that we can see pretty easily. But if we weren't sure what the ending was, we could just do a partial search and we would still find the word plikta, which is the root word, in this case to pay a fine or receive a punishment. Another word that you might see in a record is this one. Now in this case, the words above and the words below had lines that overlapped with the word you're looking at. And you might be wondering, well, what is that word? But the ending is nice and clear. And if you saw that the ending was NSKAP and then just ran the ending search, you would see that the word is äktenskap. Now, the standard spelling of Ektenskap after 1906 is Ektenskap. So in this, it really helps to have the older spelling searchable. Here's another example. So in this case, let's say that you could see that it begins with the letter D and you can see that it ends with DES, but you aren't quite sure what's going on in between. You run the search and find the word der stedes, or which can also appear as der samma stedes, meaning of the same place. Okay, so the two main points from this lesson are: there was no standard spelling before 1906. And that may be why maybe you've struggled with a modern dictionary or with Google Translate in not finding the word that you're trying to find. Ideally, you should be using historic dictionaries like the Swedish Historical Dictionary Database. Also, if you're wanting to learn all the rules from the spelling reform of 1906, there's a really good article on the Family Search Wiki for Sweden under the subject language. And there you can see all the rules that were changed at that time. The second point is that it would be helpful to learn how to pronounce at least some of the words so that you can sound them out as you're trying to figure out what it means. Now, there's a really good course available for free on the Handelshögskolan website in Stockholm. And a link to that can be found on the Swedish Genealogy Guide links page under the topic Language. Well, with that, we are done. I would invite you to watch the next class in the series, in which we will put together everything we've learned from the first lesson and the second lesson all together and see how it all unfolds. If you appreciate this content, I would be grateful if you would give it a like or share it through one of the social media channels. Thank you.